Hello, and welcome to I Love Gay today. And we are in New York with Scott Clover. We're going to have some fun in this conversation today. It's a little out of the ordinary. How are you, Scott?
I'm well, thanks.
No, I love what you do because we haven't met personally, and
No.
I hadn't even we're connected on LinkedIn, and but it's just fascinating that you've created this well, we call it, your book and so forth, Coming Out Intuitive, a journey of self acceptance. But everything that you post and all that, it's just, it seems like you've really figured out exactly where you want to go in life.
Well, I've been through a lot of different incantations of what life is supposed to be. I've had different professions over the years that rolled one into another that had nothing to do with each other.
Yeah,
And later in life, I accepted my intuition.
yeah,
And in doing that, I did a lot of healing work and a lot of guidance work with some mentors and things, and realized that my intuition would be catered better to healing than, say, running a business, which I used to do. Running a business is great, except sometimes you meet disingenuous people and disingenuous things happen. And it just started to not suit me any longer. And I needed to find another outlet.
yeah.
And that's when my intuition sort of came back to me, meaning I was very intuitive as a kid. And I shut it down in my earlier life, knowing I was starting to be regarded as odd. And, when you're 11 years old and probably gay, you
Yeah.
don't want to be odd as on top of that. So I remember the hallway in my middle school and saying, shutting my intuition down because I started knowing everything about everyone. And so later in life, it was pointed out to me by my now partner, you're pretty psychic. And I thought, well, maybe. And then I sort of had my own coming out about that
Okay.
in my late 30s.
Wow.
Studied a lot, trained a lot, and then eventually discovered that I can guide and help heal people.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I do now.
And you do that, you're in New York, and yeah,
Yeah.
you do that both in person, but also you do it, I guess, through phone or
It's mostly by phone now with COVID. I do see some clients in person, but generally after COVID, it went almost exclusively over the phone. So
yeah,
I don't need to see or see the person visually. It's actually prefer that I don't, because
yeah,
I see with a different lens or a different mindset. So I would rather not see each other. That can create judgment.
yeah,
Is my hair okay? Is their hair okay? What is their background like? So being on the phone, they're in the comfort of their own home. They're in a very seated position that I get real specific, and they can close their eyes and sort of trust and guide and see themselves the way I see them energetically. And I
yeah,
describe it to them in metaphor, and that can create a lot of feelings of release.
yeah,
And if you see a pattern for what it really is and not the pattern that you've told yourself it is 40 years later, then that healing can happen about something from your childhood or your lack of creativity or your lack of being able to express yourself.
yeah,
And that's what I learned. I've been in this almost 10 years now. I'm quick to celebrate my 10-year anniversary of doing this work. And it really does boil down to, when you work with me, you're going to find self acceptance.
yeah, yeah,
If you call me back and we work continually, this work leads to not just authenticity, but authenticity in action.
yeah,
So it's not just you think authentically, but you actually act and are perceived that way. And that can be challenging for the people that you've known your whole life. And if you decide to change, some of those fall to the wayside.
yeah,
But then your intuition kicks in and you just become more self-esteemed. And that's where I want to talk about, hopefully, a little bit today.
yeah.
Is, I've been a professional gay my whole life. I used to own a gay oriented business. I was on the board of directors of the Detroit Gay and Lesbian Community Center called Affirmations when I was a business owner there. Then I moved to New York and I ended up doing a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah,
Uh, but what I like now is talking about self acceptance,
yeah,
not just in the gay community, but particularly in my mindset, the intuitive community. So I do have a brand that I market called Coming Out Intuitive. That's a group of classes that I teach, which you mentioned it will eventually become a book
okay,
um, when I get enough down. But for right now, it's a series of classes, and it is about coming out intuitive. It's about accepting that you are intuitive. Once you do that, the intuition becomes a lot cleaner and more succinct. I speak with people all the time. I spoke with a woman earlier today. She's like, "Wait, if I believe it is, then it is." And
yeah,
with intuition, that's, faith has a lot to do with it. And society has deemed that intuitive is funny or some Hollywood trope or some evil boogeyman is coming to get you. And no, it's just pretty much people that have passed on, if you're a medium, that are trying to talk to you.
Yeah.
So if you take some of the spookiness and the woo-woo out of it, I call myself an energy guide or an
Yeah.
intuitive energy person
Yeah.
because it's just energy.
That's that's fascinating. And in fact, because that's when I, especially when I see coming out intuitive, my first thought is because you're a gay man that you kind of tie in and you're helping a lot of LGBT people along their journey. But no, this is different. This is very much that same analogy, but towards the
It's a
closeted
it's a
intuitive.
universal acceptance because we're all intuitive.
Yeah.
So I would say the lion's share of my clients are not queer. And a lot of them we talk almost exclusively about their intuition, whether they want to become professionals or they just want to understand what's happening to them, or they just want to sleep better because
Yeah.
things are interrupting their sleep patterns. It can run the gambit of what I can help people with. It's really their situation, and it's about accepting themselves. It has, yes, it is mimicked or piggybacked off what we have done in the gay community. I mean, I remember the March on Washington in '91 that I went to, with my skirt on or something. So we've done this as queer people, and now if you apply it to other things, it can use that as a template. And so, no, coming out intuitive is for everybody that thinks they might be something other than what society deemed they should be.
I think it's fascinating. Do
Thank you.
when people come to you, because your website I think is very comprehensive, and
Mhm.
especially you have the testimonials and so forth. But do they, when they come to you, do they kind of already understand and know what you do and what intuitive energy healing is, or do you have to do a lot of kind of explaining and help them along that path as well?
When I was in New York exclusively, it was a lot of conversion. It was a lot of telling people this isn't talk therapy.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
different. You don't talk to me. I kind of talk with you and your subconscious. And we see what your intuition can pick up or mine can pick up about you. And that can be a family pattern, a generational line, a past life. It can be, run the gambit. But no, now I get a lot of people from the coasts, from LA also. They're a lot more in tune.
yeah,
And most people, it's word of mouth that I don't advertise really or publicize myself in any way. I do have a podcast that I talk about intuition and the things I would have liked to have known about when I was coming out intuitive.
yeah.
But generally, my work is word of mouth. People find me when they're ready. A lot of my clients are saying, well, you explained me back to me. I really needed to hear this today, or I feel like I'm ready to hear this.
Yeah.
And those are the people that call back. The people that aren't ready to call, that aren't ready to handle that aspect of it or being seen, they generally don't call back. And I understand it's not easy being vulnerable, particularly with someone who you perceive of as seeing more than I should. And really, I've catered and refined my abilities that I really only see what I need to see to present it to you in metaphor. I don't see all the extraneous boogeyman or stories
Yeah,
that you're trying to hide.
yeah,
That doesn't interest me. What interests me is how can we get you to see yourself authentically and that create a healing pattern or self-esteem.
yeah,
So this is one thing I wanted to talk to you, knowing we're going to talk today. Pride is great. Pride got us to where we are today.
yeah.
But we're bigger and better than what pride offers. Like pride is one of the seven sins, right? If I'm not mistaken. Pride, they say, you see these things online, these emotional code things, and they say pride is right under the horizon line of sort of an enlightened thought or a shadow thought. So
Okay.
pride rides right under there. And I'd really love to see the LGBT queer community bump itself out of pride and into self-esteem.
Yeah, yeah,
And the reason I say that is because when I work in my healing work with people, I guide them into self-esteem. If victimhood energy is the flip side or the shadow side, and the enlightened side is self-esteem. So if I can help guide someone, even in the hour we're together, into that flip into self-esteem, then their body's going to want to heal and their spirit is going to be enabled to heal.
yeah, yeah,
If you come at life through a victim mentality or a judgmental mentality, then you're less likely to be able to heal. So if I can teach people that joy and judgment don't live in the same moment,
yeah.
so find the joy and find the esteem in what you're doing. And if you don't, then change your patterns to find that. And when you do, then you find healing. And it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your history was or how bad your parents were
Yeah.
or the situation that happened to you or your coming out experience. Once you're able to find that self-esteem, then it works for you. I mean, if you watch the end of those drag race shows, the RuPaul's Drag Race, every season, every country, they all say the same thing at the end. I found this way to self-express, and I no longer self-hate. I self-accept. And they present themselves as they see themselves through metaphor and artistry. I use intuition. So intuition is my drag, I would say.
I'm learning so much today, and but no, and it's interesting when you point that out, because there's obviously a reason or multiple reasons why it's so popular worldwide, and you're touching on one aspect that, especially in the LGBT community, that is probably very much in need of.
Well, that, and I have a lot of friends in New York that create television, create reality TV, and most of it is confrontational.
Okay.
Most of it is somebody has to have something against somebody, and if you watch that show, or some other shows like Kimmy Schmidt, there's only a handful of shows that are sort of uplifting. When you watch those shows, there's less about the competition and more about the camaraderie and what it's teaching the viewer. And that's why I think they hook people's zeitgeist, and it hooks everybody. It's not just a queer show anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason why it is that way.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Another TV show is I think it ages both of us, is that I love it when I was reading on your social media that one of your favorite shows from back when you were a kid was In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, which was for me as well.
If you're an empathic, imaginative kid that is picking up intuition, and in the 70s when I grew up, there were no words for intuition. It was either weird or spooky, or kept aside, or it was some trope in Hollywood that it was dangerous. So I had to really convert myself into understanding who and what I was. And that show, I think, planted some seeds. We talked earlier before the interview started that there was a show about past life regression that I still remember, that I saw when I was like 5 or 6, 7 years old. And now I help clients with that kind of stuff. And I remember thinking, this resonates with me, but I was too young to understand why.
Yeah.
And here, all these years later, it's now my profession.
I'm fascinated. Now I can't wait to on one of my next trips to New York that I'm gonna have to look you up.
Okay, please do.
I love that. But no, mostly I'm really glad that you were able to take a few moments of your time and just kind of share a bit of your story with our audience here.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate what you do as well. It's important. Community is important. And if you want to talk about healing, one thing the gay community did get right is through the AIDS epidemic and now through the legal battles and stuff, is we have a sense of community. And that sense of community is what gets us through. And I look now on LinkedIn, and I'm involved with some investment opportunities and some new tech things. And there's a community of gay business owners out there, which when I was a gay business owner in the 90s, we were a bunch of lone wolves. There were like 7 of us in Detroit that I can remember, right? And now on LinkedIn, there's so many people creating communities. And when you have community, you're being seen more authentically, and that can create healing. So it's called healing in community. Just seeing each other authentically allows us to raise our vibrations up. As I said, if we can bump out of pride and bump it up to self-esteem, we're going to get even farther as people and as a community.
Well said. I agree with you completely. So this is great. And I look forward to keeping these conversations going.
Sure. I'm happy anytime. Do you have any questions?
No, but I just want to say thanks so much for being here, and look forward to being able to connect soon.
Yeah, likewise. See y'all soon. Thank you. Bye.